If you have followed my figure reviews, you'll know that I have reviewed both of these Taito exclusive Hatsune Miku figures. Both of them are of course clad in the uniform of the Game Center attendants, and I actually really like these figures quite a bit. These are both figures you would have to win in the arcade in games of skill. So in keeping with that theme, today we're going to cover something a bit more seasonal. I actually got this figure for Christmas. This is the Taito exclusive Hatsune Miku summer figure. Or to be more accurate, it is the Hatsune Miku figure second season summer version. These figures are released seasonally, of course, and thus their theming does change. There's been some in the winter that are dressed like Santa, and some in the summer that are dressed in swimsuits. Either way, they're always pretty interesting, and this one was one that I saw while in Japan, but of course it was far out of cycle from the arcades for me to win. So, somebody bought it for me for Christmas, and I'm very happily bringing it to you in a review today. Now, obviously, this figure is supposed to look like she's attending some sort of summer festival. It's very popular in Japan for them to go to festivals in the summer, or all year round, really. People get together and they go to these awesome little groups where people sell stuff, be it food, or play games to win prizes, and watch fireworks, and so on and so forth. This figure is, of course, embodying that idea. Now, the top of her outfit seems to be something like a kimono, which is commonly worn at Matsuri, as well as she is holding a fan that even says festival on it. She's also wearing a kitsune mask, which is super cool, holding a candied apple, which is one of the many traditional treats you can get at these summer festivals. There's some lanterns behind her, which are common at festivals, as well as fireworks, which are another common thing at festivals, so this is already getting me pretty excited, so let's get further into the box itself. The front has, of course, the regular image of the figure, which shows everything rather nicely. The side shows actually both the front and back of the figure, which is a nice change. It kind of labels them strangely as back and side, but it's nice to see. And then, of course, the other side of the box has an awesome close-up shot that really lets her shine. This looks awesome, and I really do enjoy it. The other side of the box actually shows an illustration, which is usually used, I guess, for concept as well as a way to promote it. This one here is done by Wada Aruko, which is really nice. It's a great image, and the figure itself already looked great, and if they used this as the basis, then I can see why it turned out as good as it did. So, now that we've gone through everything, let's get into it. And already just a bit differently, she's actually in plastic packaging inside of the box, which is great because this does a lot to protect the figure. It's not rattling around in there wrapped up in bubble wrap, it's actually held inside of this, so I'm pretty happy to see that. Again, these are figures that potentially can fall from a pretty decent height when you get them out of a machine, so it's nice that they are protected on their way down, and of course in transit if you happen to purchase one. So there's quite a bit more to this figure to plug in, as the usual is normally just the hair. This one's going to be both pigtails, her arm, her hand, and even her fan. So let's get into that now. You really can't screw this one up, and if you ever did, then I would seek help. But this one is just going to be a simple fitting, of course, to plug her shoulder into her arm. And that goes on rather easily. Now her hand is empty, so you're going to want to take the little fan here and plug that into her hand. Now she's still missing her other hand, so we're going to go ahead and take the one that has the candied apple and plug that right into this wrist. Now that that's all done, she actually looks pretty cute, but of course, we do need to give her more hair. Miku looks great with this short hair, but let's go ahead and plug in the pigtails. Now, of course, both pieces look incredibly identical. The only difference is going to be that you want them clawing towards her legs. So the bottom should be scooping and the rounder part should be at the back. So you're going to plug them in this way. Again, another simple fitting, it just plugs right into the side of her head. But now we get to plug her into her base, and her base is very different from the normal clear bases that I'm used to with these figures. This one's actually really adorable in the fact that it's very festival appropriate. It has some fireworks on it, the fan has the little bubble balloon balls that they use as toys, kind of like yo-yos, a little fish inside of a paddle, which is another game they play to try to catch fish, a ribbon, the candied apple, and even the kitsune mask, all very, very cutely put on there. And yeah, this just has so much more character than some of the other bases, so I'm happy to see this. Just two simple pegs and you plug her right in. And seriously, just how nice is this figure? When everything's put together, this is absolutely beautiful. The theming is a little weird. The dress itself is the only thing that kind of throws me off, but I do rather like this. It's so pleasing to look at. The colors are incredibly complementary. Having the blue with the yellow and then those dashes of red really all comes together to make something incredibly attractive to the eye. The blue base adds something that the others just don't have in having character even at the feet. And speaking of the feet, let's start there. Hey look, I don't judge and I'm not obsessed with feet myself, but these feet actually look really nice. The shoes are incredibly cute and just enough accent to complement that tiny little figure of hers. They're tiny heeled sandals, and she even has small ribbons at the backs of her heels themselves. And look, it was impossible for me to not notice when putting her together, but they even bothered to give her panties. It's nothing weird or gross, but with a midriff like that, you realize there has to be some sort of situation down there. And I do appreciate the attention to detail. Now, Miku's dress really is the main focal point of this figure. It's incredibly bright and incredibly well crafted. There's really no shading on this figure, which I think somehow lends to its cuteness? I'm not quite sure, but there's something attractive about how plain the colors really are. Everything just looks right, and the boldness of how loud all the saturated colors are really does work well with a figure like Miku. The yellow firework pattern on her furisoden actually is a great detail for the top of her kimono. In her other hand, the theming goes so well having her hold a red candied apple, which of course complements the red frill to the edge of her sleeve, as well as that yellow, making the yellow and red combination just be a great contrast. The big yellow star in the middle of her chest is a wonderful contrast for the blue. Everything here works so nicely with color theory. The complementary color scheme is almost overused here with how much they really hammer it home. And of course on her back she has a big red ribbon on the waist as well as at the top of her head, which all looks really nice, and it's a great way to give the figure even more volume and give it something to look at even from the back angle. But let's talk about the main thing that really draws my eye, that face of hers. The face is done absolutely gorgeously. From her adorably open, happy mouth to that giant, pale, beautiful open eye of hers, the wink only accentuating how happy and cute she looks, and that additional little bit of blush in her cheeks making her appear all the more youthful and all the more happy to be at the Matsuri. But I should really be mentioning this kitsune mask. Of course, this is the thing that guided my eye to her the most. When I walked past this figure in a shop, I looked and almost broke my neck with how quickly I double-took to see her. I ran over and just stared and said, oh my goodness, this is absolutely adorable. I love the fact that she's wearing one of the traditional no masks, and it all just makes me so happy to see. It really brings things together, and even if you don't think it works theming-wise, it does. People wear these masks at festivals, and it does clash just a tiny bit with the rest of her outfit, but it was the primary reason that I looked at this thing to begin with. If she was just wearing a cute festival outfit, I would still think she was adorable, and I think this was a nice figure, but that mask really seals the deal for me. She's just about 8 inches tall, which makes her pretty much the same size as the other Taito figures, so that's good. It doesn't feel like I'm getting any less value out of even what might be an older figure. I'm not quite sure of the release schedule, but I do believe she was released around the same time as the Taito uniform second figure, so they're pretty spot on as far as quality goes. And as far as quality goes, I really don't have many complaints here. The fact that you have to connect a couple extra pieces does annoy me in the fact that it does create some gap. Her shoulder does have a slight crease there where you can see that it is connected. That is unfortunate, but it does not break the immersion. I still think the figure is lovely, and just as many problems as it may have are just as similar on most of the other prize figures. If you spent anywhere between $10 and $20 winning this thing in an arcade, you would be doing yourself an immense favor and ultimately spending your money incredibly wisely because this is a wonderful collection piece. As much as I love the Taito uniform figures, they're great in their own right, but this is original and it is just so different from the others. I'm not quite sure what my favorite hair color for Miku would be, if it's the toothpastey pale color, or if it's that electric blue from the other figures. Either way, I do like this in the fact that it is original. There's something so different about this compared to the figures that are wearing uniforms of Taito employees. I love those figures for what they are, but they are based off of a uniform that people wear. This in itself is a completely original design, and I love it for that. It gives off a very fun vibe. She looks like she's having a wonderful time. The atmosphere is just perfect here, and I really can't think of anything else bad to say about it. Quality control issues are always going to be a thing on these arcade figures. Mine did have a speck of paint on it, and that was pretty much the only thing other than some creasing and stuff like that where the figure plugs in at. These are things that you're really never going to get rid of with something so cheap, so I really wouldn't complain for what you can get these for. But with all that said, what do I give her as a number? Well, like I said, I love this figure. She's gorgeous, she's really nicely done, and the quality here is outstanding. The sculpting is really just a level beyond what I expect. There's so much nice wrinkling and creasing in her dress. The way that it's blowing is just really great with the way that it guides your eye. The colors are so amazingly done, almost to an extent of being overused, and the base is such a nice little cherry on top of everything else that it's hard to give her anything less than a 9. This figure is absolutely gorgeous. I'm incredibly happy to have gotten this as a Christmas gift. Now that I've opened it, I can appreciate it even more. I was happy to open it and say, wow, thank you, you remembered that I wanted this thing, but now that I can see it with my eyes, this is beautiful. I'm definitely keeping this on display, and if you guys want to get it, I would absolutely recommend picking it up off of eBay. But with that said, what do you guys think of it? Do you like it, or is it not quite what you expect of Hatsune Miku? Why don't you drop a comment below and let me know? And if you liked the video, then make sure to like the video. Subscribe to the channel because I'm always making new figure reviews, and I'm going to put something up in the corner here for you guys to click. And even if you have already seen it, just click it. It helps the channel. The new year is approaching fast, so I'm going to try to get at least one more video out before that happens, and I will see you guys in 2020. But until then, have an amazing weekend and keep on collecting.